A man looked at a drop of water and saw an entire universe that no human had ever witnessed before. This wasn't a scientist in a grand laboratory. This wasn't someone trained in the halls of power. This was a cloth merchant in a small Dutch town, teaching himself to see what everyone else had missed. His name was Antony van Leeuwenhoek, and he lived in Delft, a place known for pottery and canals, not for changing the course of human understanding. But Leeuwenhoek wasn't satisfied with the ordinary. He owned a fabric shop, and like other drapers of his time, he used small magnifying lenses to inspect the thread count in cloth, a tool of the trade. The lenses he could buy weren't sharp enough. They didn't show him what he needed to see. So instead of accepting the limits of what was available, he decided to make his own. Leeuwenhoek taught himself lens grinding, a delicate, painstaking craft that most professional opticians spent years mastering. But he was driven by a different kind of hunger, the hunger to see more clearly. He spent countless hours perfecting his technique, grinding small pieces of glass into perfect curves. His lenses became sharper than anything else on Earth, some magnifying over 250 times what the human eye could naturally see. One day, he did something that would have seemed ordinary to anyone watching. He held one of his lenses up to a drop of pond water. What he saw shattered everything. The water wasn't just water. It was alive. It was swarming with creatures, thousands of them, moving, writhing, multiplying. He called them animalcules, little animals. But they weren't little to him. Through his lenses, they were a revelation. An entire kingdom of life that had always been there, invisible, undiscovered. In 1676, Antony van Leeuwenhoek became the first human being to see bacteria. Not because he was a famous scientist. Not because he held a prestigious position. But because he refused to accept the limits of how the world was supposed to be seen. When he wrote to the Royal Society of London to tell them of his discovery, they were skeptical. A cloth merchant. With no formal training, no Latin. How could they trust this? Most people would have stopped. Rejected by the establishment, dismissed as an outsider, lacking the credentials that mattered. But Leeuwenhoek saw it differently. He didn't argue with them. He didn't demand recognition. Instead, he simply kept writing. One letter. Then another. Then another. Over 300 letters across decades, each one describing new observations, new creatures, new worlds within worlds. He documented everything: bacteria from his mouth, creatures from sewage, organisms from rainwater. Each letter was both an act of exploration and an act of faith that if he kept showing them what he saw, they would eventually understand. Slowly, the Royal Society began to listen. They sent people to verify his findings. They looked through his lenses themselves. What they saw couldn't be denied. There was an entire universe of life invisible to the naked eye. And so Antony van Leeuwenhoek, a cloth merchant from Delft with no formal credentials, became one of the most important scientific figures of his era. The Royal Society made him a member. History recorded his name. But here's what's remarkable about his story: it's not just about discovery. It's about what that discovery reveals about how we see the world. For thousands of years, humans had walked past that pond water. We had drunk it. We had crossed it in boats. An entire kingdom of life existed right in front of us, and we had no idea it was there. Not because we weren't intelligent enough. Not because we lacked the information. But because we lacked the tools, and more importantly, because we weren't willing to question what we already assumed we knew. Leeuwenhoek's story begins with a simple question: what if I could see more? But it ends with a much deeper truth. Everything we understand about the world is limited by the tools we use and the curiosity we're willing to follow. When he first looked at that drop of water, he didn't know he was discovering bacteria. He didn't know he was laying the foundation for microbiology. He was simply following a question because the question fascinated him. That's what separates the Leeuwenhoeks of history from everyone else. Not genius, but willingness. Willingness to look. Willingness to question. Willingness to follow curiosity into unknown territory. How many invisible worlds are still around us right now? How many kingdoms of life, operating at scales we can't yet perceive, are hidden in plain sight? How many truths are waiting for someone curious enough to ask better questions? For someone willing to teach themselves the skills to see what others have missed. The history books tell us the story of a scientist. But really, it's the story of an explorer. Not an explorer of lands, but an explorer of reality itself. A man who refused to accept that what he could see with his naked eye was all there was to see. And that refusal, that single refusal to accept the limits others had set, fundamentally changed human understanding. It opened a door to an entire science. It revealed an entire kingdom of life that had been invisible. One merchant. One question. One drop of water. That's all it took to prove that wonder isn't something we create, it's something we uncover. It's already there, waiting for someone brave enough to look. Leeuwenhoek spent the rest of his life looking. He never stopped asking questions. He never stopped following the explorer's impulse to see what others hadn't seen. And the world opened up because one person refused to stop wondering. The question for us now is, what invisible worlds are we walking past? What's hidden just beyond the limits of how we currently see? What would become possible if we, like Leeuwenhoek, refuse to accept that we already know how things are? The shopkeeper from Delft teaches us this. The most profound discoveries rarely come from those who accept the limits of their time. They come from people willing to become explorers of possibility itself. If you've ever felt that sense of wonder, that magnetic pull toward questions that don't have easy answers, you're tapping into the same force that drove Leeuwenhoek. The explorer that lives in you is the same explorer that saw the invisible. This is Flow of Wonder, the channel for people who haven't lost that explorer inside. If you want more stories of hidden worlds, forgotten discoveries, and the people who dared to see beyond the obvious, subscribe and join the exploration.